I have experienced many winters in my life, but that winter was different. It happened years ago during a hunting trip deep in the northern forests of North America, lands that had been known for centuries by the Algonquian peoples. It was December, snow covered everything, and the branches of the tall pines sagged under the weight of ice. The forest was so quiet that sometimes it felt like I was the only living person left in the world. I was traveling with a local hunter named Daniel. He knew those woods better than any more. That night we built a fire beside our small tent. The cold wind whistled through the trees like distant voices. Suddenly Daniel stared into the darkness of the forest and said quietly, "If you hear something calling from the woods tonight, don't follow it." I laughed and asked, "Why? What's out there?" He stayed silent for a moment. Then he said one word, "Wendigo." And somehow, the air felt even colder after that. At the time, I didn't take Daniel's warning very seriously. To me, it sounded like one of those old tribal stories people tell around a fire during long winter nights. But Daniel wasn't smiling. His eyes stayed fixed on the dark forest beyond the firelight, as if he expected something to appear between the trees. The night grew colder as the hours passed. Beyond the circle of firelight, everything dissolved into a wall of darkness. The tall pine trees cast long shadows across the snow, twisting into strange shapes whenever the flames flickered. And about an hour later, I heard it for the first time. It was faint, a soft crunching sound like footsteps pressing into fresh snow. I lifted my head immediately and stared into the woods. "Did you hear that?" I asked. Daniel didn't answer. Instead, his hand slowly moved to the rifle resting beside me. The sound came again, this time clearer. Crunch, crunch. Something was moving between the trees. I leaned forward, trying to see past the edge of the firelight, but there was nothing there, just endless rows of dark pines standing silently in the snow. Then something about the sound started to bother me. The footsteps were light, far too light. Whatever was walking out there barely seemed to weigh anything, but the distance between each step sounded unusually long, as if the thing walking had an impossibly long stride. Daniel finally spoke in a whisper, "That's not a normal animal." I looked at him. "Then what is it?" He didn't answer right away. After a moment, he said quietly, "If it's what I think it is, we should pray it does not notice us." Right then, somewhere deep in the forest, a long, chilling cry echoed through the trees. It wasn't a wolf. It wasn't a human either. It sounded like something caught between the two. And when the sound faded away, the forest became completely silent again. So silent, I could hear my own heartbeat. After that chilling cry faded, an unnatural silence fell over the forest. It was the kind of silence that felt heavy, as if the entire wilderness was holding its breath. The fire crackled softly beside us, sending occasional sparks drifting down onto the snow. Daniel continued staring into the darkness. Then he said quietly, "Don't let the fire die." I looked at him. "Why?" He didn't answer. At that moment, I noticed movement between the trees. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but then the shape moved again. Something was standing among the pines, not very far away. I couldn't see it clearly, but one thing was obvious. It was incredibly tall, so tall that its head seemed close to the lower branches of the trees. It stood perfectly still, and it was watching us. My hands began shaking, not from the cold, but from fear. I glanced at Daniel. The color had completely drained from his face. He whispered, "Keep your eyes open and don't make a sound." We sat there in silence. The dark figure remained between the trees for several long moments. Then slowly, it began stepping backward into the deeper forest. Within seconds, it disappeared into the darkness. We stayed awake beside the fire for the rest of the night. When the sun finally rose, we walked to the spot where the figure had stood. There were tracks in the snow, but they weren't normal footprints. Each step was nearly 10 feet apart, and the prints looked like they had been made by something tall and impossibly thin, almost human. Daniel stared at them for a moment, then he said quietly, "Sometimes the forest gets hungry." We packed our gear and left those woods immediately, and to this day, I had never gone hunting in those northern forests again.